Welcome back to another video on this channel. Today I want to show you something I've already tried before, but haven't quite got it recorded for your viewing pleasure. A Grove Ranger tank. Mind you, I do not think it's a very great tank for someone new, and it has thread issues even with items and enchants to help with it. But in all honesty, it's somewhat fun to play with. We won't be playing on my main. I'm going to make an alt for this build. If you watched the previous video, I deleted that character and have made improvements based on what I lacked previously. Without further ado, let's see how this plays out, shall we? Well, we started it at a time where I actually have my starting skills set. I'm going to play as an Alliance human and give this build a bit of a test to see how well it performs up until level 60. Pay close attention, loves. We've taken Bulwark as our defensive mechanism to deal damage while putting out block at 100. We'll use Medicinal Sting and stack that with Grove Medicine to gain a heal over time effect while our shield protects us and we heal from the Medicinal Sting. Medicinal Sting can also be used to pull mobs as we tank them. We've carded Blessing of the Divines as an additional layer of protection, as it has a chance to proc the 10% damage reduction blessing. We've also taken Ancestral Healing to make our nature healing give us less physical damage taken. Put this with the 100% block chance granted by Bulwark and you have a decent low-level tank thus far. Although heed my warning, low-level tanking isn't impressive once you learn some basic fundamentals regarding how this game scales and how to build an entry-level tank. Still, it can tank quite well at this early stage, so do be proud of yourself if you can take a spanking without worrying about dying. Not many new players, and some seasoned players can do this. Well, hello there! Trauma Care. I got it from the spin of the wheel and not from a card I used. How lucky am I? With Trauma Care I could learn Greater Heal and use that with my Poison Nova. And well met. What a joyous occasion getting such a spectacular talent on this build. My previous mistakes was not having block value and not investing in any real meaningful defensive abilities. So what would happen is, I'd be healing with Grove Medicine and Blooming Shot, and just die insanely fast because I didn't have any defensive stats like block value or damage reduction. I've since learnt from those critical mistakes. I'm also using the Heirloom gear that is based on defensive capabilities that has helped tremendously with getting my damage taken reduced with much needed block value. Although I have noticed Strength seems to get more block value and Spirit seems to be more or less based on whatever your gear supports, so it feels like a disadvantage regarding that aspect. All in all, being a tank almost means instant queue times, as tanks are very hard to come by lately, and with Conquest of Azeroth being advertised more, the player base is split now. Let's not also forget that most people run Mana Storms as a means to get to level 60 over dungeon grinding, especially if they don't use Aura and experience potions such as myself. So let me clear the air here about one thing. This build will 100% suffer from if you don't pay attention, and that issue is mana. You'll want to take Arcane Aiming and Infused Arcane Shot if you want to stand a bit of a chance dealing with the mana drain. These skills will use especially if you need to cast Healing Touch at an early level. Compound Shot with Meditate is also a godsend this early on, and will absolutely make a difference between having mana and being out of mana, which would mean depending on the healer to hopefully keep you alive. This gear and itemization is all a bit confusing, but I have very little spirit and not enough agility to be happy. But this is an early and theoretical build that is mostly testing how efficient this works. Mind you, this isn't the first time I've tried this. I've done it around 3 times already and learned each time what works and what doesn't. I've trimmed the fat and carded what I think would be the most difficult to roll, and put on things that would feel comfortable playing with while I wait for support talents to roll, like damage reduction or more energy. Never depend on Wildcard to get your core build going. Let me repeat that. Never, ever, depend on Wildcard to get your core build going. At some point, Wildcard will shoot you the middle finger and start giving you crap that not only is useless, but frustrating to keep, like threat reduction or Titan's grip. Yes, you will absolutely lose threat or damage if you roll Titan's grip, so you had best plan to have something to roll them off if that happens. Happened to my pirate alt when I was leveling her. Those first few rolls while leveling is like a honeymoon when you get what you want through cards. And sometimes Wildcard is generous and will understand what you're trying to do, so you end up with some nice rolls like I did with Trauma Care previously. Fun fact time. My Grove Ranger wasn't supposed to have lived. I only wanted to test what Buff's Ascension did with it and then delete her, but I ended up rolling Grove Ranger's agility and decided to keep her. I have never prestige on my main. Everything on her was hard rolled, and she even got buffed when they added more card slots. Bulwark is an interesting defensive mechanic. I always wonder what could scale with it, or if there is anything that can proc using it. I just haven't invested too heavy of time building a proper tank. In all honesty, magic damage for any tank seems to be the problem. A physical damage reduction tank isn't hard to make on Ascension. The real test is going into a party with this and seeing just how well I can manage. Here we go! There is no telling what the healer is going to think when they see this. Probably frustration, but we need to do this. For science. By now you know the protocol. Medicinal Sting to get that Grove Medicine going, and Blooming Shot to top it off. Compound Power is going to keep our combo points going for Poison Nova or Meditate. Bulwark up to negate damage while we heal. Seems pretty solid. The healing while blocking feels good, and no big drops in health thus far, but early leveling isn't rocket science, sadly. Eventually, I plan to make my healing touch target me only. I know, a bit selfish, but the way it works now is sometimes I heal others who don't need any healing, and I myself lose the stacks of Grove Ranger talent. A self-cast healing touch would serve for me to keep the party alive, as I soak the damage for them. Sustain feels promising. With only the core cards in play, it's not too bad actually. Damage is low, and damage reduction could be better, but so far it's not bad at all, considering I don't have everything rolled perfectly. It has potential, I think. It's not bad, it's definitely different, and Gord knows I'm tired of the meta. This part of the dungeon people usually die to, but we were able to handle it with relative ease. I struggled briefly getting a healing touch off on myself, due to me trying to make sure I held all aggro with the massive amount of spawned monsters. Do be advised that silence can be negated with Blooming Shot, but not Healing Touch. Just some random advice for those invested in a Grove Ranger. Although if you are a Grove Ranger, you probably already knew that. A look at the equips. These equipment choices do not match up to what I want, as they are the heirlooms bought in the donation points shop. She's nowhere near ready to do any heavy tanking, but the fundamentals are laid out. Do note that holding aggro is still hard, even when you put on aggro increasing items, so working with this to make it do real endgame fights will be the challenge. I may or may not be asked enough to try and push for her success, but in all honesty, it feels nice to be able to help the healer while taking in damage. I won't delete her, because she's got a few good rolls, just like my main did in her early days. Consider this a proof of concept. My problem is I love my main too much to play on anything else right now, so long as there is improvements to be made then, so long as I love playing as my real Grove Ranger. This character passes as far as performance, so she gets to stay. I still need to find a way to make a pirate work, as well as a ninja. I do hope you enjoyed watching this, my friends. Until next time.